And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Cuzco. Now, Cuzco is not a new game. It is a reprint of an older game called Java. Back in the day, Kiesling and Kramer, the two designers, they made 3 games in what's called a mask trilogy, because each one had a big picture of a mask on the front. Those games were Java, Tikal, and Mexica. All 3 of them did very well. Tikal did the best, and all 3 of them have been reprinted by Super Meeple eventually. This is the last of the 3 to be reprinted. When I first played all 3 of them, well over a decade ago, Java, now Cuzco, was my favorite of the 3. My one thing was, I was like, this is great component quality. I remember saying that. And I also remember saying I would not want to play it with people who take a long time because you literally have millions of options. Do my opinions hold through? Is it still my favorite of the 3? Let's take a look. So this is the board. It kind of starts out fairly sparsely, but it's going to fill up as the game goes by. Now, on your turn, you have 6 action points that you can spend. You do have these 3 tokens that you'll be able to use over the course of the game, and you'll be able to basically use one of these on a turn to get rid of, to get an extra action point, to have 7. So what can you do with your different action points? Well, this handy-dandy chart shows you what you can do. First of all, you can place a land tile. So as the game goes by, you're going to be putting these tiles. There's these 3 size tiles that players have that show 2 of the regular land. This is basically crops and village. So you can put these out on the board in different spots. It's possible as this game goes by to put them on top of each other. You just can't put one directly on top of something else. Each player also has a bunch of 2-sideds and a few singles that they can place on the board also to mess with things as they place them out on the board. You are required to do this at the beginning of your turn, no matter what. So you always have to put out 1 land tile. That's also one of the ways that the game's going to end when we run out of them. Now, as this game progresses, you can bring Incas onto the board. If you bring them on from this side, where the forest is, that costs 1 action point. If you bring them on where the mountains are, that costs 2. And you can bring them on either the towns or onto basically the crops tiles. Once they're on a tile, it's going to cost you 1 to switch from one to the other. But if you stay on that 1, you can move through it. So I could do this, for example, go 1, 2, 3, and move here if I wanted to. So you can move around the board, but once you're on a terrain, you can move it pretty much as far as you want. You can also build a temple. Now, when you build a temple, you have to build a temple in a village. The game comes with temples here. There we have size 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, and they can all be stacked on top of each other like that. When you build a temple in a spot, there has to be an empty spot, and then the temple that you place there has to be equal to or smaller than the number of town hexes. So there's 4 town hexes, so I could put the 2 there. I could also automatically just put the 4 here and start that way. You can also upgrade one. You can expand one. So I can pay 1 action point to put the level 2 down and pay another action point to expand the level 2 to a 4. It doesn't have to start at a 2. You can start it all the way up to a 4, and it only costs 1 action point. But you're going to want these temples to get bigger, so you're going to want to make the village tiles bigger. However, at the same time, once you build a temple there, it's no longer called a village, it's a city. And if for some reason someone plays a tile to make that city smaller, the temple doesn't get destroyed, but also you're not going to be able to make it bigger. Players can also pay an action point to add a pond to the board. The reason you want to have ponds is because as soon as the pond, it doesn't matter how many hexes the pond is completely surrounded, it's going to score points, and it's going to be equal to whoever controls it. So you're going to look at all the different Incas who are next to that pond, and whoever has the most is going to win. Now, higher will, if there's a tie, then whoever is higher will win that tie. And then you're going to get 3 points for each hex. So this would score 6 points. So as the game goes by, you have a chance to get more of these points just by building ponds. Also, you can draw festival cards. You can take the top one here. This is a blue or a green card. There's 3 different colors, blue, green, and red. Some cards have only one color, some have both. So you can take the top one of the deck or the face-up one there. And then you can throw a festival, but you can only do that at the end of your turn. You can only throw a festival in a town where you have Incas, and then people can join in the festival also if they're there. So here, if red throws the festival, yellow can join in. You're going to look at the top card of the discard pile, and those are the cards you can play, and you're essentially making a bid, and whoever plays the most cards of that color or colors is going to win the festival. But you play them a little bit at a time, and you can jointly agree that, hey, you've all played cards, let's share in the points of the festival. And the festival is going to score points for players basically based on how many, if one person's doing it alone or if there's multiple people involved, and then how big the temple is. After a festival, you'll put a marker on that temple to show that a festival's been held there, and another festival can't be held there until it's upgraded. Of course, this couldn't upgrade till the city gets bigger, and the highest the city can get is 10. At the end of the game, and the game will end when someone places the last triple terrain, which is going to happen because players are forced to put a terrain piece out every turn. Then each player gets one final turn. After your turn, you'll do your final scoring. So whoever is the highest on any particular in each city is going to score the points of that city. This city's worth 10, and if you're the second highest, you'll get half the points of the city. If there's a tie, if whoever is the highest, then we look to see. Then you look at your second Inca. So here, yellow is winning the tie. If red, let's say that would look like this. If red was here, red and yellow are both on the highest level, but yellow has a second one in there, then yellow was still going to break that tie. So, but maybe on red's turn, and red puts another piece here and moves up to that, and then on their turn, they'll score the highest, while on yellow's turn, they had also scored the highest. So everyone will do final scoring, and then whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. So the tiles for this game are nice, thick tiles. They're really easy. They all have the same, all these towns and fields look the same, the yellow and the greens, but that's fine. The Incas are fine, although when you first look at them, they don't look like Incas. You have to kind of take a closer look at them. And I would argue that I don't like the fact that one of the colors is also the same color as the festival tokens. And I also would say these festival tokens are a bit of a pain to put on top of these things. I get why they're there, but forget that for now. These temples are amazing. They stack nice. They looked great. They're kind of dry brushed with white. They just stand out, and they're really going to be easy to see on the board. The cards are okay quality. After you talk about the temples, they don't look as exciting. And I argue that these they work, but wow, this is not that easy to figure out what it is. Once you play the game, you won't even need it because you'll know what all the different actions are. And it would have been kind of nice, I think, if there was a way to keep track of your actions, the 6 action points you have per turn. But no matter, for the most part, this game is going to look phenomenal, especially when it's done. It just looks really great. So Cuzco has so many things you can do. Now, even though you have a million things, I mean, I'm not exaggerating there. You can take a tile and literally put it probably in 1,000 different positions at any given point, and then you put the second one out in 1,000 different positions. But really, you're trying to make big cities. So it's not that hard. You're just taking these and manipulating them around to make big villages and then put the temples in them. And you're going back and forth trying to work against each other. But you have 6 actions. Your turn could take a while. This is the biggest drawback of Cuzco, is that someone who is very slow and takes a long time to think can really drag the game down to a crawl. Solution is to not really play with that person, but that's a thing. Cuzco is an excellent game, actually, but there's going to be kind of overwhelming things. You want to surround the ponds, make ponds bigger, get points during the game. You want to build temples and have festivals in those temples with the cards. Which, by the way, I think is the weakest part of the game, getting those cards at auction. It kind of breaks the flow. To me, the whole game is about putting these down and trying to get your people into cities and then be in this area, because the final scoring is a big deal. And one thing I really like about this game is that each person has their own final scoring. So if you quit on your turn and you move in all the best positions, I'm like, man, you won. You got the last turn. No, now on my turn I can go and I'm going to cut you out of that city completely, and then I'm going to move in and just place my tiles and try to get as many points as I can on that final turn. That's neat. That final scoring works really well. And then the game just looks great. Now, incidentally, I still like this game, but of the 3 games, it's my least favorite of the 3 now. I would say Mexico's my favorite, then Cuzco, then Cuzco. That's not a bad thing. Of the games, this one, Mexico, is probably the meanest of interaction-wise, but this one definitely has some interaction. You're going to cut people's cities down. There's the interaction as you bid to have the different festivals, or as just you try to slide someone in there and sit on a spot so that you can't build your area bigger. But mostly it's at placing the things, cutting up villages or adding, and then trying to figure out a nice route to slide a guy almost all the way across the board to jump into a village. There's just a lot going on. You're definitely not going to be sleeping on other people's turns unless, of course, they're taking forever to decide what to do. I don't know if this is a game a lot of people are going to like today. It definitely feels like a game that was designed, 10, 15 years ago, or 20. I don't remember how long ago it was. It's been a while. So it feels like it's an older game, but that's not a bad thing again. There's still a lot of cool things to talk about with this. It has that action point system, something that's not used much in games today, which maybe it's outdated, but I think it works well for Cuzco. If you've never played Java, you should give this one a whirl. If you play Java, it's pretty much the same game, just with upgraded components. But what an upgrade! Dice Tower Judgment approved!